Shaffron, town resident. I was for 33 years. Known Dr. Pulver since he's moved up here, and I just want to echo everybody's sentiments. I know him for a long time. The site is unmatched in this area. It gives a tremendous opportunity for people in this area to see the site. Seth is all about sharing his site with people where you have a lot of people that just like to keep to himself. He's so proud of his site and the way, like Ross said and everybody else, the way he takes care of his property and just the pride he has in his property. Anything that needs to get done, he's right there, and I think it'll be a boon for the area. Like everybody said, they're coming up to this area. It just be something great for people to see and enjoy, and I think it's be a great move for the town to go that route and keep it as beautiful as it is. The alternatives aren't great, and it'll be great if he can get this approval.
Thank you. Anyone in the fifth row?
Hello, my name is David Laderman. I'm a resident also in Brigadoon, Fort Caledonia Circle. And the one thing I just want to say is, you know, from what I've heard, is that this is going to be a classy establishment. I've seen what's happened through the rest of the community. You know, I've driven past roads that are trash littered. You know, for something to be called a classy establishment, it's going to be kept clean. Okay. That's what I'm hoping that the rest of our community stays. It's a clean community. So, you know, that's what I just wanted to say, that, you know, I think that this will, keeping it classy and keeping it upscale, so will keep my community clean. So I just wanted to say that and say that I support this also. Okay?
Thank you. Anyone else?
How you doing? My name is Bob Capodisi. I do live on the property, and I am the property manager up at the Rushmore Estate. It is a beautiful piece of property. Seth is a class act. Maureen, Bill, and Lynn, they hit it all on the head. I'm not going to get into it in length, but I am here to support the project and hope that he does get the variance he needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next row.
Hello, good evening. My name is Christine Villanacci. I no longer live in Highland Mills, but I came here in 1967. I now live in Monroe. I worked with Dr. Pulver for 15 years, and I can't imagine a better person that could manage a property like that. He's meticulous, he's family-oriented, he loves his community with all his heart. He goes out of his way for people in need constantly. I'm always like, okay, that's enough. You gotta stop. You gotta stop. This is just way too much. You can't help the world. You just can't help the world. And I'm not gonna echo what everybody else said because it's redundant. We all know it's a beautiful property. If you haven't gone up there, you are missing a jewel. He made this, I call it lake mistake. He made this beautiful lake. You go there, you think you're on vacation somewhere. You don't even realize you're in Woodbury anymore. It's such a beautiful property. And the fact that he wants to share it with people, I'd be like, no. But he wants to share it with the world. You know, sorry. And he has 4 beautiful children. 2 are actually here in the audience today, and they are looking to see what their outcome of their childhood home is. And I hope that they're able to keep it because they're like my kids too. And I love his kids, I love his family. He's the best man ever. And he was working out.
How wonderful.
And then-
Hi, my name is Jody Cohen. I'm a Brigadoon resident. I've lived there for 16 years. I'm also a local business owner. I support the farm and winery project 100%, just as everybody else said, for all the reasons. I don't want to reiterate everything. I do want to highlight that it will bring jobs to the area. I have 2 teenage sons who would love to have a side job or some sort of working there, and I'm sure many of their friends would also. The thing I really want to touch upon here is a testament to Seth. So most importantly, if you've ever been to the property, from the moment you step on the property, it's obvious that the owner is fully dedicated to preserving and maintaining the natural beauty of the land. From the 100-year-old trees that are all so beautifully maintained, to even just asking Seth about the history of the estate and you getting a half-hour answer. He's so passionate about the whole property, about maintaining it. It is his complete and utter passion. And I really honestly believe that he is the best steward for that property. And he has a super rare talent. He has great vision. Not eyesight vision, but just vision, sorry, but vision for a project. So, you know, when he moved to that house, there was no lake, there was no beach on the lake, there was no walking path around the lake, there was no apple orchard, there was none of it. He has a vision. When he sees something, he has great vision, and then he executes it, he makes it happen. And it's beautiful, and it looks like it's been there for the 100 years that the estate's been there. It doesn't look like it doesn't belong. His whole property is seamless, and I'm 100% certain that he's going to use that rare vision that he has in this next project if he gets the variance. I mean, it's extraordinary, and I know that his take on it will be spot on. So one more thing also I'd like to say is that if you want, you know, evidence, I'm a pretty science-based evidence person, evidence to know or to think how Seth will contribute and how this business will survive or will thrive in the community, you should look at all of the reviews from the bed and breakfast that he's currently running. Each one is better than the next. They're all complimenting how beautiful the land is, how beautiful the property is, how the owner exudes such warmth and generosity and only wants people to enjoy his property. He has people coming from New York City to get away from the hustle and bustle. He has people coming whose children are graduating from West Point, and they're so thrilled to be staying 15 minutes, 20 minutes from West Point. And what they're doing during their stay, of course they're enjoying his beautiful property, but he's sending them to all local businesses. They're going to Cosimo's for lunch, they're going to Napoli's for dinner, they're going to Blooming Grove Farm for brunch, they're going to Storm King Art Center for the day. He is sharing the wealth of these people that are coming to spend their dollars in Orange County. And you know, he's bringing business into our community, and if given the opportunity to have this winery, this farm and winery, he will just do so much for the town of Woodbury and for our community. And I'm proud. I'm so proud. I think he's a wonderful person. I can't say enough beautiful things about him. But you don't even have to listen to me. Just take a step and you. Seth, can I come to your house? He will open his property to you at any point to just share it and take a look at it. And that's what he's looking to do. He's looking to share his property and to let everybody else enjoy the beauty of his property. And so far, it's been outstanding, the feedback. And I only hope that you allow him the variance to be able to continue and to start on this new project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's quite a tribute to Mr. Pulver that we've heard
Take a
what...
break. I need a break.
We will.
I'm taking
That-
one now. I gotta go to.
Bathroom break. I think it's quite a tribute to Mr. Pulver. Everybody's saying what, you know, a pillar of the community, what an awesome property he has, what a vision he has, how meticulous he has. Is there anyone who has anything different to say? Since... Yes, go ahead.
I'm not going to go on and on, as everybody has, about Seth and its class and this and that, but I'll just say I'm from Monroe, and I only wish this was happening in
Who are
Monroe.
you, sir? So that,
Oh, Neil Myers.
Thank you.
I only wish this was happening in Monroe because it's a home run. It's a home run. Everything, growth is coming here in this area, strip malls, shopping centers, food stores. This is a winery. Not only a winery, a classy winery that already has a foundation. Everybody said enough about the guy. It's a home run. As long as you can have safety for the children, which you guys are doing your due diligence, It's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'll be brief. Paul Tapborn, 23 Quaker Road, Highland Mills, New York, 30-year-plus resident. You hear a lot of NIMBYs, right? Not in my backyard. Well, this is in my backyard. And 150 cars on a Sunday afternoon, an hour, does not sound like there's not a change in character in my neighborhood. And if there's such minor impacts as these graphs show of the traffic, then why aren't we doing this from Brigadoon to Castleton and put the traffic on a 30-foot wide road, paved, curbed, drainage that's already there. They're already using that road, as you said, Gary, for the bread and breakfast that's there. So what, I'm not opposed to the winery as much as I'm opposed to the access. So why are we going to all this trouble to build Ice House Road, 24-foot wide paved, with drainage, when we could easily access Brigadoon Boulevard and take a ride on the Castleton and get the very same effect, right out at 32, with a turning lane and sufficient sight distance, so that safety is no longer an issue. So no one's been able to explain to me why we can't do it in Brigadoon. Well, I've heard a few anecdotal answers. It was, well, it's a neighborhood, it's residential. Well, what do you think a private road with 6, 7 houses is? It's residential now. But I guess our quality of life, our, not wanting to be imposed upon doesn't count as much as people in Brigadoon, because I can't imagine any other reason why you would pursue it with all this work and effort on Ice House, and you could quite easily do it on Brigadoon Boulevard. So I got to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen Taphorn, 23 Quaker Road. I, too, am not opposed to the winery. I am, however, opposed to the access. And it was a beautiful speech. It's almost a eulogy. It was... no, but such wonderful things that were said about him. It was like a eulogy. Although I did notice that many of the members in the first and second row don't live here. I do live here, and it will affect me. Just as my husband said, I don't understand if there's a reason why we're not coming in off of Brigadoon. There's plenty of folks here from Brigadoon who are in favor of the winery. There is a turning lane. The roads are wide, the roads are paved. I believe Mr. Pulver wants to come in off of Brigadoon if he could. And originally, I know it was because it was a 450-foot variance that he needed. He doesn't need that now, because now there's conversation about coming in off of Evans to Quaker to Ice House. I rode up Brigadoon, and the cars that would be affected through the traffic, there were 12. I also rode from Evans to Quaker to Ice House. The cars that would be affected are 11. So why put Mr. Pulver through paving and all the expense of drainage on a private road when there's one already there with the turning lane? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Callan Erickson, and I am the executive producer and owner of Tri-Film Pictures, a media and events production company in the area. Funnily enough, I actually used to live in the little, stage house down the road from Rushmore that I guess at one point used to be part of that property. And so I was there before Brigadoon was even built and got to see all that happen. So I grew up in this area, and I know it very well. And so my line of work requires me to work very often with these high-end venues in our area, the entire tri-state area as a whole, specifically wineries. And so it can't be overstated enough the economic benefits that this would bring, not only to businesses like myself, but to catering and farmhands and all that's involved in that. But also as someone who lived over there when all I had to get to my house back then was a private dirt road, I believe that the benefits that have been stated that would happen to Ice House would be a great thing. So basically, as long as that road is improved, the economics of this really can't be overstated. And so I've done a little bit of media work for Rushmore in the past, and I have said over and over again that this would be the Glenmere Mansion of Highland Mills. And it really will be. And so you add in the prospect of a winery to that, and it only enhances it. I mean, in your research and your deliberation, I consider you to try to, or I implore you to try to consider equivalent wineries in the area. Take Brotherhood, for example, of equivalent size. I believe that's about 40 acres. They bring in hundreds and hundreds of guests every day, every weekend, and they reside in a residential and small roaded community. Take Warwick Winery, which is about triple the size of what Seth proposes. Again, that resides in a residential area with small, basically single lane roads. Both of these scenarios, both of these businesses exist quite harmoniously with the people that live there, as well as providing tremendous economic benefits for their communities. So this I see as being a tremendous, prospect for that. And the benefits only stand to bring Highland Mills higher up as a community. Thank you.
John Cookless, Ice House Road. Mr. Abrams, just getting back to your point before about Ice House Road being closed. Back in 2002, in the newspaper, Supervisor Sheila Conroy had an article that Ice House Road was closed. The following year, the planning board chairman, Mr. Quinnan, same thing in that paper. Ice House Road is closed. Mr. Lindsay, town engineer, same year, the Ice House Road is closed. Building inspector, I've spoken to him, he says the same thing. It's supposed to be closed. I don't get where this keeps going on and on. We can't get an answer on this, that gate's supposed to stay up?
I believe the portion that's closed is from the last house on Ice House Road to Brigadoon, that section, not the section that's proposed.
Not, wow, okay.
I believe that's what that's referring to.
No, it's referring to the neighbors, on the people that live on Ice House Road. With the gate being closed, so no traffic comes down from Rushmore down through to Quaker Road, past all the houses there.
Well, the road the proposed road is really just like a path right now through the woods. I mean,
No,
you know.
I live on that path.
No, I'm not, I'm talking about, you go up Ice House Road,
Okay.
and then you have to make that right to get up to the proposed winery.
Well, the gate was supposed to be closed. There was a gate right
Right.
there. Okay,
Right.
that was supposed to stay closed. It's been closed since Seth Pulver moved there. And just the last year, or past couple of months, it's opened up now because he's, proposing this winery. That was always closed. That no traffic went up there. Mr. Pulver exits and entrance is in Brigadoon.
Is that a legal closure? I mean, I don't know.
That's ancient history, which I have no familiarity with.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna posit.
It said in that one particular copy of the minutes where then Planning Board Chairman Keenan said to Bill Brodsky, and the premise was that it was to be closed and it was to be deeded over to the residents of Ice House Road, since there really is no residence other than Seth and his wife and so forth up above that at that time. It would seem to be from Mr. Kukless's house down to Quaker.
To Quaker.
Is my understanding of it.
Yeah, but was it ever followed through?
That I did not find, to be honest with you, in the final.
Because I didn't find anything either, as far as anything being deeded to the residents. Do you have anything that was deeded
Just
to you,
the
or,
paperwork I've given you in the past.
but you have no legal documents that say, you own a
Other
portion,
than
you
planning
and
board
the other
minutes
members?
That planning board minutes that, they agreed on the two lots, 8 and 9, that they subdivided off. That was the purpose of closing that, was that those two lots that are up at the top of Ice House exit onto Castleton, I guess it is. So they wouldn't exit down on through Ice House Road. So in that case, the gate stayed closed, and that was the end of that.
That was my understanding of the whole thing, is that Brodsky wanted more lots, and in order to get the lots, he forfeited Ice House Road.
Yes.
That's my understanding of it.
Does it have any legal standing?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Did you hear of this?
But there's an awful lot of mention about all this going on.
Yeah, I don't know. We will definitely have to look into that. I mean, I don't know anything more about it.
And just one other thing, I did, not to step on his toes, but I did a little traffic study myself and boiled some information from the police department. Just a quick on that, Quaker Road and 32, in the past 5 years, there's been 7 accidents with people trying to turn onto Quaker there. So, I mean, maybe that would be helpful. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything different to say? Oh,
Maria Hunter. I'm a resident of Woodbury for 40-plus years, and at this point, when I'm going to speak, I'm probably going to have to recuse myself from a planning board chair or a planning board member. The documents that you were talking about, you need to find the resolutions that were approved for the original subdivision of Rushmore Estate. When the next resolution would come with Bill Brodsky for when the 2 lots were subdivided off of Castleton.
Maria, is that 1997 you're speaking of, or earlier?
Gary, I don't know if I was sitting on the other side of the board when this was being approved. I think you were sitting on the other side. I've been on both sides for numerous years. But the thing of it is, if you need to look and you do your research, you need to go to the resolutions of approval for the Rushmore Estate when it was on for numerous years.
This is the Carmel McGill Rushmore
You
Estates?
got it. You got it. Carmel McGill, and then it went over to Bill Brodsky, and he took on, and then he kept coming back.
Prior to Brodsky.
Prior to Brodsky.
Carmel was the principal.
Correct. You need to go prior to Brodsky. It was always the Rushmore Estate. The approvals were given then. Brodsky came in numerous times because I am the recipient of my backyard. I get all the runoff from Brigadoon. I've been on both sides of the board. I'm telling you, this is a private road. It's going to impact all of us. In front of my house, it's 55 miles an hour. I've been trying for 40 years to get that speed limit reduced. As an EMT person, I had to respond to it. Someone who had a head-on accident and died on Route 32. The speed of people with the tractor trailers coming up, going southbound, it's incredible out down there. And I'm sorry, but I'm probably going to recuse myself from the planning board because I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, but I have to speak out on this. As a private road, I feel for the people who live there. That road was supposed to be maintained. It has not been. And as for the emergency services, they'll get through. Come hell or high water, they'll get through. They'll get to the residents if there's a fire or an ambulance, because they've done it before. And I'm telling you, I'm sorry for the county that's here tonight. I will probably be seeing you tomorrow morning, because I'm going to the chamber meeting as a guest of the Woodbury Common. But I've never seen any of you at my planning board meetings when we've had numerous projects. I'm sorry, but I just can't sit back anymore and listen to this. There's a law on the books. You are to decide on that law. Everything that's being said tonight, yes, Seth is a great person. I've been up there. My children have used that ballroom to ride and drive their remote control cars. I was there when it was being built. I was there when Carmel took me through it. It's a beautiful place. They did the wall. Everything is gorgeous in there. There is a bed and breakfast there. When it goes to the planning board, I will definitely ask about accessory uses and a farm. I am beyond listening to everything that's been going on here tonight. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
This poor guy's got to drive to Albany or someplace tonight.
Saratoga.
Look at
There's a bed and breakfast.
Hello, everybody. Took my hat off to you. Thanks for having this debate. I just want to say,
What is your name,
For the
sir?
secretary, would you state your first
State
and
your
last
name, please.
my name is Warren Martin. Okay. I just want to say that my understanding that people that own property, they pay taxes. Some of them pay mortgages, probably most of them do. And they have this, if I have it right, they have like an inherent right to improve that property to the best use for where it's at. And so it looks like, from my point of view, that having this winery serves a lot of purposes. One, first of all, Seth is, he's a local person. He cares about the community. He also does community work. I won't say what it is, but he's a big help. But the thing is it the proper use? Do we want another 200 or 300 homes there on, was it 50, 60 acres? The traffic would be a lot then. Or do we want condominiums there? How many people would that be? Maybe another 600. So here it is, a winery. And will it fit into the landscape? Will it preserve the land to a greater degree? I think it will. And I think it will serve the community to a greater degree also. So thank you for your time. And
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Jenkins. I'm a Highland Mills resident. I own the old Foley farm at the top of the Scunnamunk stuff. I'm in the neighborhood. So, and I just want to put it through just a slight lens. I'll be quick because I know it's late and I've been at work since 5:30 and I'll be back here at 5:30 tomorrow morning. But having said that, we opened a restaurant in a vacant spot, 10 years vacant, right? And it was hard. And then we got it open and it was hard. And then we are now expanding and it's hard. And what Dr. Pulver is considering is this manifestation of a beautiful idea with all the necessary bars that you have to contend with. What we found in our instance is that we've been able to create something that's really been a spiritually significant thing for that community. And my contention and my consideration for you is that I believe that given the quality orientation and the meticulousness and everything you've heard that has been so beautifully orated about Dr. Pulver tonight, which I second by all means, would create that thing that we need within this community. We need homogeneity, we need the ability to create and participate together in a beautiful environment that's quality oriented. And I firmly believe that he will do that. And I think that we as a community will benefit from that. So I want to offer my whole-throated support for it and understand that the spirit of the community is not just zoning. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that. And I appreciate the hard work that you all do. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this application? No. I think we should wrap this up, continue it next month, because we still have seeker and everything to do, rather than, and go on to. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. One, that you were there, and two, who you were.
Who was that?
It's our traffic engineer.
We don't need him. Did we?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get home till morning.
Good evening, Philip Greeley, Mason Consulting. To be pretty brief in terms of a synopsis of what we've been asked to do and what we've done up to this point in time, we reviewed the April 23rd letter from Mr. Galante's office. In terms of procedures and criteria, he followed the standard procedures, okay, in terms of evaluating delays, evaluating capacity of roadways. So I think in terms of some of the work that he had done early on, there was an application to the planning board for this project before it came to this board. We had made several recommendations, one of them being looking at the higher traffic generation. And from a traffic engineer standpoint, yeah, we look at peak hours and what happens in the peak hour, and if the capacity is there to accommodate it, it'll work in other hours also, okay? In terms of the delay calculations, those are standard routine calculations that are done. In terms of the information he provided on the various roadways, on their widths, et cetera, I think from our standpoint, upgrading Ice House Road to a full width road operationally is important. The board raised some questions about safety. The one item in his report on page 2, paragraph 3, mentions that they requested accident statistics from both the village and from New York State Department of Transportation. They haven't received that yet. They will, they indicate that they'll provide it to the board. So I know one of the questions was safety. That is how we usually look at safety. One of the ways that we look at safety is to see if there's an accident history. And if there is, what's the cause of it? Is it lack of lighting? Is it signing? Is it sight lines? So I think that's one item that in their report they mentioned they anticipated to come. So whether the board is making the decision tonight, that was the only, quote, open item in his letter that they were still waiting for. At the end of the day, I think with that information, as if this project does proceed and they get their variance, they will still have to go to the New York State Department of Transportation. So in terms of the intersection of Quaker Road and Route 32, that is the DOT's purview in terms of sight lines, safety, if they need any improvements. I don't see, based on the volumes, that they're going to warrant the traffic signal. But again, that's one of the steps in going through an approval is other agencies. So the question is, when does that occur? Many times that occurs once there's a more formalized plan. When it's in front of the planning board is typically when DOT weighs in. In this particular case, I think the information that this board has asked for, they've provided. The only item is the accident data, whether that will show anything. One gentleman mentioned what he found out, whether it's, you know, the total number of accidents. So right now, we're at a point where they've addressed the capacity issues. So it really comes down to, you know, whether the board wants to wait for the accident data to be provided. And, you know, when it goes back to the planning board is when you get into the nuts and bolts of what other improvements are needed. So that's pretty much where we are right now.
A quick question, sir.
Yes.
We keep dancing away from Evans Road, and if there's a road there, they will use it?
Correct.
Especially if they came in that way, they're going to try and go out that
Yes.
way. That would be included in any New York State DOT too, right?
Correct. So I'm assuming when they refer to the accident data, that they didn't just ask for accidents at Quaker and 32. I'm assuming they've asked for all the intersections that they analyzed. They analyzed 4 or 5 intersections. So yes, that is the purview of New York State DOT also.
One follow-up on that is if you take a safe road and you put more traffic on it and then it creates accidents, is there anything that they ever do in a study through New York State DOT about that sort of thing?
Okay,
You know,
so
hypothetically, we're making it worse kind of thing?
at an intersection, DOT weighs that as part of their review. For example, if you have left turn movements and that left turn movement is going to increase, they take that into what, if anything, they will require in terms of improvements. On a section of road, just because you have more volume doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be unsafe. But again, if all the sight lines are provided that satisfy DOT criteria, and as part of their review, they look at not only the volume, but the turning movements, they would weigh in on that as part of their review.
Thank you.
Questions from the board?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Gary.
Any comment on the quality or quantity of practicality of traffic accessing this facility by going up Brigadoon to Castleton?
Well, I think in terms of Brigadoon, and I was actually involved with the design of the turn lane there, so just history-wise, I know the area and what transpired. So in terms of that as another means of access, and they would need a variance whether they came in off of Quaker or if they came in off of Brigadoon. Brigadoon does have a turn lane already, so if that was, a consideration in terms of traffic turning off of 32, that is already present, okay? In terms of Brigadoon itself was designed to accommodate the traffic flows. It hasn't been studied per se in terms of the volume additions. I don't see that there would be capacity issues with that accommodating the flow, but again, it hasn't been studied.
So potentially viable, but you don't have an opinion on it because the numbers haven't been generated?
Numbers haven't been generated. I don't know what's being generated at that intersection at Route 32 today. So I can't tell you for sure, because the fact that the left turn lane is there is a very positive thing, because you have the ability to store traffic and through traffic can pass in their travel lane. The amount of volume that's there already for the subdivision, for the residential neighborhood, may require other upgrades, but it hasn't been studied, so I can't tell you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board?
Should we make
Did you
a
have
motion?
something to say? Because we were going to extend this to, we have to do seeker and everything anyway, so.
I make
All
a
right,
motion, we extend this to public hearing over to...
Keep it open and-
Keep it open to June 12th.
That's fine. Okay, so assuming you're going to make that motion, and we're going to adjourn, I just like to go through a little list here as to what you really want me to address between now and the next meeting. So that's...
Really?
Do I have a second for that motion to carry this over till next month?
Before all the motions are made, can you discuss, so we don't close the public hearing, or whatever?
No, we're not going to close the public
I know,
hearing.
but kind of compact it to have the conversation before you carry it over?
You want...
What
She
do
wants
I have
Jay to speak before we
Yes,
close it.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, all right. You want to...
Listen, I have no problem with adjourning the public hearing, leaving it open, and we're going to supplement and answer any questions that you may have. Specifically, I think I can glean what I think I need to do here, but if you have specific...
Well, we have another application after this. You're not... There's another item on the agenda tonight.
That's fine.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to tell me now, fine. If not, I'll do the best I can. Are we adjourned?
No.
I made a
not yet.
motion.
Yes. Who seconded it?
Nobody yet. Jay, do you have the questions that have
Here we
been
go.
expressed by various people speaking from the public or from the board?
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything in addition to add to that which has already been said?
No, nothing in addition. I mean...
I know Gary's comment, I know Gary's main concern here, and I know the board's main concern here is safety. I appreciate Mr. Greeley chiming in on what we need to produce, and we are missing some stuff. Mike's already requested it, we haven't gotten it, we're going to certainly supplement with the safety data and give you any opinion that we can generate as a matter of, based on his expertise. We will provide that for you to clarify the safety of doing this. And we'll have it, we expect to have it for next meeting. Anything else that's really jumping out at anybody here?
No,
Nothing's
I'm
jumping at this hour.
My suggestion to Jay, my suggestion to Jay is that he explore those alternatives that have been brought up. Unless they're completely unviable, there's no reason not to consider them.
He would,
We'll entertain that. See, that's
They would
really
love
difficult.
that.
That's really difficult because, I mean.
It's your choice. You can, I'm just suggesting it. I'm not telling you you have to do
If
it.
the board will entertain us throwing Brigadoon in as an entrance, if you really want to consider that, we'll be happy to draw up a plan to show you. But we can't go through the expense unless you're really going to seriously consider this.
I'm not.
You heard what the engineer said. The engineer said that he made comments.
Okay, I got one no.
I get it.
Okay, I got one no.
I get it.
And listen, I'm, right. The only other matter I'd address is this issue regarding Ice House Road being closed. As far as I know, either there's something entitled, there's a deed, there's an existing
we don't-
contract. Is this an issue?
I don't know if it's an issue.
I mean, as far as
It could
we
be
know,
an issue.
It's not, okay, I'll get you.
You know,
I'll
I mean,
look-
I don't know.
I will look into it and provide you my opinion as to whether we're restricted or not as to what we can do with Ice House.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, without that document, it's anecdotal.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know if it's an issue or not.
Lots of things get discussed at board meetings.
Right, and I don't know that anything was actually done with it.
We have a motion.
Yes, we have a motion to carry this over, keep it open and carry it over till next
I
month.
second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This guy's wife's gonna think
Okay.
he's,
Just one more thing, I am not on the next application.
I'm sorry, what? I need to take a 2-minute break.
Do I even know what's going on with Ziggy Brown?
Why would you just start like right there?
You need to know what's
Like in
going on with
you can
Ziggy
understand.
Brown? Yes, I do. I do. It's not that hard.
Do you know Pat Jamison? You know who he is? He is the owner of the 2 restaurants that went into Duck Cedar.
Oh, down on
Donnie.
117.
Yeah, I need to have to Dottie Audrey's and the sub shop. I can't think. Keystone Subs.
I know
So
where-
they're side by side. He bought Ray DeFalco's house. When Ray got pissed and left the Apple Hill and all that, when Ray left town, he bought his house. He was a restaurant guy, like a chain restaurant guy. Always wanted to open up his own, hang out his own shack. So of course, Duck Cedar Plaza was empty, as it said forever. So we got a favorable rent. Opened up Dottie Audrey's. Obviously, the food is good. The whole presentation, he knew what he was doing. And now you can't get into the place. He's busy all the time.
I'm glad. I like to hear it.
It's
'Cause,
wonderful.
that thing was, if you really, good night. Thank you for being so patient.
Good to see you. Yeah, no, it's good to see you.
It's okay, Seth. These things happen. It's for the ones that are short, you have to have the ones that are late.
I was going to say to Pat, he won't come down to your place. He won't leave town.
Thank you, guys.
I assume you've been to Pat's place?
Oh, yeah, sure.
You did a great job, really.
Amazing, right?
It's
That's real top of notch.
Good
I wish it was
example.
closer. At one point, they were looking to open that in Woodbury. Before they went to Tuxedo, they were looking at the Murray's building. Before the
I think he made the right decision.
Yeah, you think so? Because I would love that in that
Well,
district.
I don't dispute that, and maybe one day he will open here. But I think that if with his clientele down there, if he wanted to open up here, those people would come here too.
Right, he's already
I'm
got a
just saying
reputation, it's true.
that what I was just telling
I'm
Joe,
just
that his
happy
mom
everyone here
down there,
that didn't
of course, he's in the business, you know what he did.
Yes.
But it's, you know, it's a great story.
I will say that is the
That
most.
place was
do a great
empty,
job.
no one was coming there, now all of a sudden you can't get in the parking lot.
Right? And I feel bad if you go back far enough, the first guy who turned the duck seeder into the mall didn't make it. And he's the one who did that amazing job. He took that place and built it. And then he couldn't get
For
a tenant
years,
like that.
for years, you just scratched your head and say, what is there that's the barrier? Because if you build it and it's any good, they will come.
So true. They built it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyway, thank you guys. See you next
All right, Seth.
Take care, Seth.
I know.
If anybody does want to come over and see anything.
Thank you.
Thank you for the offer. If you had a girl you really wanted to impress, you took her to the Duck City because it had the continental ambiance.
When we first moved here, we moved here in '89. We used to go there for the buffet, you know, all the you can eat lobster or whatever that was. And then all of a sudden it was gone.
By then,
And then they raised it.
when I was younger, there was still a lot of traffic to it, and
Oh, you got them. Yeah, that it was very nice. But you know, I didn't. When we went there, we enjoyed it so much. We asked, you know, who's the owner? We didn't know any. We didn't know that Pat lived here. He came out to the table and talked to us and told us that he had bought. I said, "You bought Ray DeVille?" He goes, "Yeah." What makes me thinking about this? We didn't buy the house next door to the restaurant. 17. He ain't got all that traffic that goes to his restaurant ain't coming past his house. No. Number two, he didn't build a restaurant next to his house on Skyline. No. Because, you know, what he likes about living there is that it's fucking secluded. So, you know,
watch it.
It's not nice. And answer his questions.
Well, now we see who the diehards are. I clarified with Gary today. Well, I've been trying to clarify, I never get to the product. I said, you noticed that it was the location problem. I said, what is the problem and how did you get to it? Well, there was no location.
Oh, is that right?
That's what he said. It's more than 6 inches from the property. And he said, just address the 50% of the 6 inches.
So we don't need to grant a variance, we simply determine that sufficient proof has been provided.
So,
The,
how long did it take you to get here? Oh, you didn't come from, you didn't come from
Yes.
home.
No, you know, I know. You know, it's funny.
But you live,
I'm like, you want to live here later? Oh, my God.
But I've been doing this now for like 8 years.
are you a racetrack fan?
I am, yes.
I got through to Mike Francesca the other day.
Really?
And I asked him about.
oh, wow. Here, thank you.
Stories in the Times about Santa Anita because I've been
Nice.
and I've never seen anything more beautiful. I happened to be driving from Irwindale to Arcadia to get dim sum. And I said, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I heard her say.
It was on the road I was doing.
So now you're left within the height variance request.
It's hard to believe.
Application's open.
Come on. This is not a Santa.
I went back there the other day.
No, it's a
This is,
regular.
it is great. It is he said green.
It doesn't follow,
He said
pure cleaning.
based on the
You
fact
have
that racing
a building
want
permit that
racing.
shows this. Yeah, well, guess what?
And there aren't nearly enough horses.
You filled it out one way, you didn't follow it.
Oh, really?
So they'll take the ones that exist. And I think it
They
should
put
be
the 6-foot starting here.
What he said is,
Went on their map, which is right, you know, the building lot. So they've got,
there's nothing wrong with it. That's not the problem. And I had no idea.
4 foot high,
So I had no idea before I got involved.
which it is.
this is 4 foot here,
for
yes. So
parts
this is the
line.
part that's not, this is the part that has
Yes.
the grass makes it solid. And this here, they've got 6 foot.
My son graduated from.
Showed it as proposed.
Oh, I went to
For
the
here, yeah, they didn't.
Oh, you didn't go there for
I didn't go
undergrad?
Proposed 6 foot.
Right, because in the rear, you're allowed 6 foot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from the rear building line back.
So the part of the fence that's in violation
Is from
front of the
here
house
right to
is
there.
In the industry know exactly what the problem is, and it has nothing to do
We'll
with.
take them one at a time.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, this application gets way out of hand quickly.
Well, also, he tends to, I think he's just as anxious to everything too.
And they're getting bigger and bigger.
So, this is the one we hadn't gotten before.
To the sport.
Yeah, and so the application now, materials, I think the materials are complete.
Yes.
Of course, Mr. Gottlieb hit you with another letter this week saying that the law is written is,
That's because of visibility of no control.
Yeah,
He has
say
his
it's
right to tell us to
unconstitutional.
remove them.
but that's not a decision
Have you
for
been here
this
this whole
board.
time? I gotta get to a neurologist. I gotta get to a neurologist. Well, I just noticed the fact that you read. I gotta get to a doctor.
Mr. Abrams, would you like to join us?
Andrew.
There's a nice bed and breakfast up by Brigadoon. You could stay.
My wife always asks 2 questions before I go to a meeting. What number are you on the agenda? Is there anything controversial before you?
Oh, no.
So my
Not to
answers
worry.
tonight were not exactly good.
You wouldn't believe it if I told you. Get a copy of the tape.
I told her to tune in. I did the live stream.
Hopefully, you're going to be quick.
Well, that depends on you guys.
All right, we have before us our last public hearing of the evening. It's for Brock, public hearing to appeal violation order number 2019-012, which I don't even know if that's the proper one, issued by the building inspector for exceeding the permitted height and location limitations for fencing placed in the side and front yard. In the event the ZBA upholds said violation, the applicant seeks an area variance to permit a portion of the solid 48-inch high fence in the front yard to remain. Pursuant to Section 146-7A of the Village Code, fencing in the front yard shall be uniformly less than 50% solid. Furthermore, the applicant has erected 6-foot-high solid fencing in a side yard, whereas pursuant to Section 146-5B and 146-7A, fencing in a side yard shall not exceed 4 foot high and shall be less than 50% solid. Said property is located in the R2A zoning district at 273 Seven Springs Road in Highland Mills and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 213, Block 1, Lot 67. And our applicant has stayed through the entire evening. Congratulations.
You did that on purpose.
I did one on purpose.
Made him stay
One
here.
one point of clarification, Karen, on
Yes.
that question. The most current violation order is 2019-036.
Right, that's why I said I don't think that's the correct number when I
Yeah,
read
that's
it.
the old
Yeah. A new violation order was issued just to reset the numbers because you weren't happy with the numbers that were cited. You said it was the zoning code, not the fencing code. The notice of violation, yes.
No.
Yeah, we got a new one.
Never received a notice of violation. This will be the first time myself or the applicant has ever seen this document.
The upgraded?
The upgraded one.
It was never forwarded to our office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have to say, and I respect, for the record, Charles Gottlieb from Whiteman, Osterman, here on behalf of Mr. Brock, the owner of 273 Seven Springs Road. And before I start, I respectfully submit that there has been a lot of misfilings in this matter. And
Well, what happened,
it's costing a significant amount of money.
the reason that the February
Why
7th
don't he just fix it?
The reason that the February 7th packet was not given to us was because Mr. Thomas Berger had asked for a clarification, which he received, and he just thought that packet wasn't necessary with the clarification.
Then
But
I respectfully submit that that's in violation of New York Village law, which requires Mr. Thomas Berger and the village itself to forward letters that address to the Zoning Board of Appeals to the Zoning Board of Appeals, despite his own personal agenda.
well, we won't deal with that this evening, but we did get the February 7th one. Okay, so we have all the information.
Okay.
Basically, there's 2 violations.
So let me just
fix
and this is new information because, like I said, for the record, we have not received.
Oh, but it's the same one. You didn't like the code was the 310 code, and you said it needed to be addressed through the fencing.
Is there a copy I can just take?
You
it
can
from
have
the
mine.
executive?
Yes. You can have mine.
A due process issue here.
Right. See, the original one was with the zoning code.
This is also a totally new notice of violation that has a new allegation within it. So, I submit that our client has not seen this, our office has not seen this.
Well, it was sent to the client, for sure.
Then there has to be some sort of, it's odd that it wasn't forwarded to our office, knowing that this is all ongoing. But despite that, I think we can work around this. For the record, I just want to note that this is new, and it's an odd situation here that I think there's a due process issue now, which we need to reserve our client's right if he decides to go further with this. So for the record, let me just start off, and maybe I can clarify where I think we are. The board now has all of our submissions in front of it.
Yes.
The initial appeal, February 7th, 2019.
Yes.
A supplemental submission, February 25th, 2019.
Yes.
A clarification request dated March 7th, 2019. A correspondence dated 4/22/19 demonstrating proof of delivery of our initial appeal. A
Yes.
supplemental submission most recently on May
May
7th,
7th.
2019. So as long as that is all in the record, I just wanted to.
Yes, it is.
Now, before we get into our requests, which are going to be altered because of this new violation, I want to say that, as we stated in almost all of our submissions, the purpose of this law, if you look at 146-8, is to ensure vehicle safety and sight distances. This fence is code compliant for 100 feet into the property and has absolutely no impact on vehicles traveling on Seven Springs Road. So we submit that under 146-8, the code enforcement officer in the village has no authority to subject our client to this fence law because of there being no adverse impact here to traffic safety.
But it's only 4 foot, the fence, isn't it?
For 100 feet into the property, it's only 4 foot.
But that's
in
legal.
height. And then that's perfectly legal. And then right kind of where the building starts, where the residence starts, it goes up to 6 feet for the remainder of the side yard.
So why don't he just take the 4 feet to the back of the building, then he's legal, and then he can have 6 feet from there back, then that's legal.
So the way the code reads, it's a safety issue. On the other side of the fence, there's a bit of a ditch. There's kids that will be residing at the residence. And with all due respect, a 4-foot fence is not enough deterrent to stop a child from trying to go over that fence into that ditch area and creating a safety problem for those who reside at the house. And that's one of the arguments we make in our area variance requests.
So you're saying that a 4-foot fence would be climbed, but a 6-foot fence wouldn't?
I think, yes, if you have a small child and they're looking at a 4-foot fence versus a 6-foot fence.
I don't even think I could get over a 4-foot fence.
I don't know if you could get over a
And
3-foot fence.
let me just continue to clarify what the request.
Counselor, I got a quick question for you, though, on this 6-foot versus 4-foot. Here's his original diagram that went in with his application for his building permit. He put all 4-foot fence in, or Gary corrected it for him at the very least, and showed him what it was supposed to be. He told him closed loop on top, minimum 6 foot from the property line. This was dated August of last year.
August 13th.
There's no issue that a code has, or a fence has been constructed that is too high. If it was not too high, I would not be here this evening.
No, sir. Basically, what I'm saying is the applicant knew full well that it was supposed to stop at the back corner of the house at 6 feet, and from that point forward to the front corner of the house, it was supposed to be 4 feet. Now, if the applicant had chosen at that time to say, I need a 6-foot fence, he could have come to us for a variance at that time before any construction was done, and a 6-foot fence was installed. You see, so...
And I can address that. There is a partially 6-foot fence there. I'm sure this board has seen instances where things are constructed not compliant with the code. The applicant then comes in seeking variance relief. The thing that you're talking about now is not a part of the balancing test. There's no standard...
Yeah, but I'm saying, sir, he had every opportunity to get it right the first go-around, and you wouldn't be here waiting for hours and hours.
Sure, and I'm going to address that. While that is a consideration that you might consider in your assessment, it is not a factor within the required balancing test. One of the factors is the variance self-created? I try to make this argument all the time that a variance is not self-created. Here, we argue it's not self-created because of that ditch. It's a safety concern. That ditch required us to build a higher fence for child safety purposes.
I don't believe that.
And that's okay. There is case law that I have cited in our submissions that say the self-created test is not dispositive upon an area variance, and that's why it's a balancing test. So
if the ditch was there prior to the fence being built, yes?
Well, so the ditch was there. But
Or the grading of the house was there before. Right. It's not really a ditch as much as the way the house was graded.
So if you look at the property, say the property is here, Seven Springs Road is like this. There was grading in the initial building permit application to flatten out the lot. That did increase the ditch a little bit, right? So you need to grade property anytime you're constructing a house. A residential house is a permitted use. So that grading that was done in conjunction with the single-family house, that was permitted grading approved by the building.
I don't disagree with that, but he knew full well that grading was done before this application went in, right? For the fence?
I completely understand what you're saying, that we did not come in for this relief before the fence was built, and the fence was built not compliant with the code. I'm not arguing with that. What I'm arguing is that is merely one factor of a balancing test that the board is required to assess.
I'm just saying.
The area variance, the impacts of the area variance, do they outweigh the benefit to the applicant? Here they don't, and that's why the variance should be granted.
Let's look at, we have 2 violations here, right? We have the 50% solid in the 4-foot section.
So, yeah, we could take this one at a time. I think that might be
right. And then we have the 6-foot height in the side yard, which is also solid.
So now what you have is those, you have to separate the 2.
Right.
So that's why we should take this one at a time.
Right.
So violation number
One more procedural thing. Are we supposed to weigh in on Gary's current violation order and then we proceed to the area variance? Procedurally, you know, how do we do this? Counselor?
Well, like Mr. Gottlieb, I did not realize a new notice of violation had been issued. Apparently, it's not been served upon the applicant, so there's no appeal with respect to it before you at this time. Part of the applicant's request for relief addresses the previous notice of violation, where there's an allegation that the enforcement provisions are misquoted. I've written opinion with respect to that, concurring with counsel's opinion with respect to that, and I believe that is what generated the new notice of violation. So to the extent that counsel is asking this board to interpret that part, I think it was like part 5 of this application actually, and I agree we should take them one at a time. When we get to it, we can discuss it. But that's, the notice of violation, the most latest one, is not before you this evening.
And I think
Do we have to come back to it, Counselor?
There may be an appeal with respect to it. We'll have to see.
But
All right.
There's no appeal with
makes the
respect to the
same-
notice of violation that's before. That was recently issued in May, I think it's May 6th, is that what I say?
May 7th, something like
Well,
that.
actually, if you look at our February 7th initial appeal, we knew just from hearing rumors that this see-through, this opacity issue with the fence was looming out there. So we reserved our client's rights in that appeal. But for purpose of this, I mean, this, for the record, I'd like to note that this notice of violation is dated Monday, May 6, 2019, when everyone in the village knew that we had a ZBA meeting on May 8th. Even if this was put in the mail, I don't think it would have gotten to my client. And once again, I go back to the process that is being installed upon my client. It appears to be different than in any other respect, and we object to that very aggressively.
Well, let me just speak to that. It's dated May 6th, which is 2 days ago. The building inspector would be required to serve your client directly with that. To the extent that that hasn't happened yet, it's not an issue for this board this evening. I mean, you can talk about it all you want, but I assume that you would take an appeal with respect to it if it's not addressed in the board's current application.
Yeah, and I think we can, putting this aside, we can probably resolve the other issues other than the new allegation that is in this notice of violation,
Which new allegation are we talking about?
the opacity issue.
That wasn't in the last one?
No, it was not. The
No.
opacity issue came from conversation or dialogue between the applicant and the building inspector. The applicant has asked the board to consider it as part of the current application. That request was embodied in his letter, I believe, of February 25th, and so it is an issue that is validly before you this evening.
So the letter of violation, the letter, the February 25th letter doesn't constitute notice?
With respect to the opacity question, yes. The
Yes, it
applicant
does, or
It does,
It does.
yes, and that's an issue for you this evening.
I thought you just said that that wasn't an issue.
On the November, the May
getting
5th, the May 6th notice of violation
Right.
is not before you this evening.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So put it away. It may come back sometime in the
Yes.
future, but put it away.
Okay.
What is
But I
bef-
would say,
Rob, whether
to the
he's been,
extent,
whether Mr. Brock has been cited or not on the opacity issue, it's not in compliance.
And he knew it.
If his-
That's a
if his-
determination
allegedly-
for the board
If
to
his
hear.
fence has inserts in it, which are not allowed, then he's in violation whether he's been cited or not.
it's all an allegation.
All right, what do you want to do? You want to discuss
So
this
I think-
tonight, or do you want to come back next month?
Absolutely, myself or my client, because this is now getting costly, and I respectfully submit a bit ridiculous. So what I would like to do is to go through this one by one. I think we can knock off some of the allegations and have determinations on the area variance. To the extent that's a determination that is not in favor of the applicant, then my client can then pursue his other legal remedies. But to delay this more and more is costly, unfair, and a bit prejudiced. So I think we
I
can-
take offense to that personally.
No, I meant prejudice in the manner that it's causing us constant delay and money.
And I
Why don't
do
he just
apologize
fix
for
it?
that.
He could have just fixed
It's
it.
also his right to come before this board to request an area variance and an
All right.
interpretation.
All right, which should we address, which one do you want to address
Let's
first?
take the area variance.
No, wait a minute.
I don't know.
Let me ask him which one.
Let's do this in order. Let's take the area variance. The area variance we have requested thus far is to permit a 6-foot-high fence for a portion of the side yard. We have set forth in our February 7th and other submissions how we meet all the balancing test requirements. It's only a small portion of the fence, mostly zoning compliant for the majority of the fence, which results in no adverse traffic impacts. This is a safety issue for young children on the premises. There's no objection from the one impacted neighbor, and therefore we respectfully submit that the area variance be granted because the benefit to the applicant is far greater than any impacts to the community. So if the board would entertain a motion on that, that area variance would not only knock off that allegation in the original notice of violation, but it would also knock off the new May 6th first allegation related to zoning code section 146B5.
we'd have to deliberate on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if
By
we,
each
if
of
we,
the questions?
Yeah.
Do we really have to?
Yes.
I mean, isn't this just a yes or no?
No, it's a
No, we-
ZBA thing that you're
no,
supposed
we
to do
need to
the
decide if
questions.
we need any more
Kevin.
information before we deliberate. You don't need to deliberate it right this minute.
Madam Chairman, on this variance, the board is required to consider the 5 factors test. I believe you all know what they are. I suggest that you discuss them one at a time and see if you can come to a determination on this. It would resolve a lot of the matters that are before you.
So do we then close the public hearing on that portion
No,
of
leave the public hearing open. If you want to hear the public, you can hear them all now or wait, but you could also discuss the 5 factors at this time if you wish. You can invite the public to speak if you want on this part of the application, I would suggest, on this piece of it, though. So otherwise, we're going to get going on, again, numbers 3, 4, and 5 before you resolve number 1.
Do we have any more questions on the 6-foot-high side yard fence? Any more questions from the applicant? Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak to this application?
Don't even.
Anybody have the guts to stand up and speak?
All right, let's get to the next one.
Now, you want to have your client keep the right to appeal, so you don't want to discuss the opacity?
We would like a determination on whatever the board would like to make a determination on this evening. I think we can address the opacity issue, and I also think we can address all of them. But once again, we're now going out of sequence, and it's confusing things. So let's just handle this area variance request right here, right now. Have your
Don't we do the
deliberation.
5 questions
No,
after we close?
No, do the 5.
You wanna do
questions
them
on
now
the height, on the 6-foot height thing, do the 5 questions.
You want to do that now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
let's get it done.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 5 questions, and these apply only to the 6-foot height in the side yard. Okay, question 1. Will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance? Now I have to see if this is the right. Okay. The applicant says the project will not result in an undesirable change in the neighborhood, nor be a detriment to the surrounding properties. It's located in the R2A residential zoning district, is improved with a single-family residence. It's our understanding that the subject fence is located in the side yard of the property adjacent to an existing steep slope. The slope presents a significant safety concern for the residents of the property, especially young children. The portion of the fence from the front footprint of the residence to the rear have been constructed at approximately 6 foot in height to provide the necessary protection for the young children residing and visiting the property. A 4-foot fence in this location would not provide enough protection to deter young children from climbing the fence, which would put them at risk of falling down the existing steep slope. Indeed, a 4-foot high fence would be easily navigated by a child and result in significant injury. Importantly, the applicant has spoken to the adjoining property owner, who has not stated any objection to the existing fence as constructed and understands the present safety concerns. In addition, the 6-foot-high portion of the fence will help to keep wildlife, especially deer, from entering the rear yard of the property. Further, only a portion of the fence that's 6 foot high is located in the rear of the property, and thus no traffic-related impacts will result because the fence is 4 foot high near 7 Springs Road. Accordingly, the 6-foot fence will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, considering that it mitigates a present safety issue, and the adjacent neighbor, the only person impacted by the fence, has not stated any objection.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I don't agree with the deer. Don't think that they're not gonna get in your yard. I have a fence, and it doesn't work.
Did you have to get a variance?
No, it's in the rear.
Did you get a variance for your fence?
No, I didn't need a variance.
Okay. Number 2.
Wait a minute,
Wait. Hold on. Okay.
Any other?
I agree in as far as the 6-foot fence, it is only a 2-foot difference.
Well, it's 50,
okay?
it's 50%.
My problem comes with the way it was created to be solid. Not
Well,
so
we're
far
not-
that it
we're
has
not
to be
doing that
solid,
yet,
but
though.
I'm just reserving that.
We're just debating the height at this point.
but just for future reference,
Gotcha.
okay?
Gotcha.
How that was done. Now, they are allowed a solid fence on the side yard. It's not a corner lot. Yes?
No, they're not allowed a solid fence in the side yard. They're allowed solid in the rear yard.
And I would submit, once again, we're getting confused with.
Okay, good enough, good enough.
Okay,
You're right.
you get what I'm saying?
My
Number
mistake,
two.
yes.
Number 2.
Okay.
Sorry,
So do
Jessica.
we agree?
Yes, we agree.
We all agree that it's not an issue, the 6 foot is, okay.
Rock
Number
on.
2.
You hear me?
Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible to the applicant to pursue. I think those are his words. Other than the area variance. The response,
Those are right out of the statute.
Did you write all this?
I did.
Village, I knew
Several
that.
times over.
It's a few paragraphs too much.
Village Law 7-712-B3B2 requires the board to consider, quote, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. The range of appropriate alternatives is limited by 2 standards. First, the alternative must still provide the benefit sought by the applicant, and second, it must be feasible for the applicant to pursue. The board may not deny a variance and attempt to relegate an applicant to an alternative design that is, quote, profound departure, end of quote, from or substantially costlier than the design proposed in the variance, with a footnote. The proposed fence was constructed at 6 foot in height to address a significant safety concern for the residents of the property. The only alternative available to address the safety concern would be to regrade the property to eliminate the existing steep slope. Regrading would be an invasive task resulting in additional land disturbance, which is more costly and degrading to the environment than the requested area variance. Regrading the land, thus, is not a viable alternative. To avoid this drastic measure, the board should grant the small fence height variance for the limited portion of the side yard fence that does not comply, which will result in preservation of the status quo on the property and continue to address the stated safety concern. The applicant is seeking the least variance necessary because the fence is only 6 feet in height nearest the existing residence and otherwise complies with the 4-foot height requirement. Accordingly, the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be viably achieved by some method other than the area variance.
Did you get that, Jess?
Could have made it 5 feet.
I didn't build it.
Anybody have any concerns with number 2?
I agree.
I'm good.
Okay, we're all good with number 2, Jess. Number 3, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. The difference in fence height from 4 to 6 feet for the limited portion of the fence in the rear yard will not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district. The fence was built as of right pursuant to a building permit, and thus no further disturbance from the land will occur if a variance is granted. Further, the only neighbor impacted by the existing fence has stated no objection to its current form, and the portion of the fence at issue is located well off the public road, such that it will not impair any view from the roadway, besides the change in view from the 2-foot difference in height in the rear yard only. No other environmental impacts will result from the proposed variance because the fence will not otherwise change. Not sure what that meant. I don't agree with some of the things that are written here, but I do not think it has an adverse effect. But you have some things in here that, fence was built as of right pursuant to a building permit. Yeah, but the building permit didn't allow the 6-foot fence there. So,
I would also submit for your consideration that this is a type 2 action under secret.
I think we did that.
So by law, no, I know, I'm just saying, so by operational law.
But there's no other environmental,
significant
right,
environmental
right. Well, I agree with that. I just was pointing out that some of the things that are written here weren't exactly accurate. Do we have any problems with number 3?
I'm good.
Agreed. As long as it's an open chain link fence, I agree.
Say that again?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, the requested area for a 2-foot difference in fence height in the rear yard of the property, it's the side yard actually, is not substantial. In considering whether a variance is substantial, the ZBA shall examine the totality of the circumstances of an application. Here, the requested variance is not substantial because it's only requesting a 2-foot variation from the height limitation for side yard fences contained in the village code, and only for a limited portion of the existing fence. The fence already complies with the 4-foot height limitations from the front footprint of the residence to its terminus near Seven Springs Road. Moreover, the village code permits 6-foot fencing in rear yards, which the village code defines as from the back of the property line to the rear building line in the rear yard. Thus, it's only the rear side yard from the residence to the back of the property where a variance is proposed to address the significant safety concerns for children on the property. I would say that it is significant because it's 50%, and our code defines the front yard as anything. It's fine, 50%.
So I would just submit that the 2-foot variance we're seeking is, the way the code defines it is you're the front yard for the fence. This is very odd. For the fence law, the front yard is from the back of the residence all the way to the street.
Correct.
So our variance is only from the front of the residence to the back of the residence, and that's why it's substantial. You guys have to look at the totality.
No, I'm not looking at the distance. I'm looking at the percentage in height.
That's fine.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm okay with 50%.
Well, I'm saying that it is substantial, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be. It's a number, right? It's a number. It's a number.
Number 5.
So is that an all in agreement right there?
We're in agreement that 50% is a lot, but it doesn't negate, it doesn't preclude us from approving anything. Number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. The alleged difficulty is not self-created, says the applicant, but it is instead the result of the applicant seeking to provide a safety measure for young children residing at or present on the property. Although the existing grade was created during construction of the resident on the property, creation of the grade level was presumably approved by the village during the permitting process for the residents. Even if the board, however, finds the difficulty to be self-created, this factor is not dispositive of the applicant's variance request, footnoted. Instead, the significant safety issue that the variance seeks to address and the insubstantial nature of the height differential of the limited portion of the rear side yard fence at issue here greatly outweighs any self-created harm. I disagree. It is self-created. And the fact that
The difficulty of the fact that the ditch is there is not self-created.
They're claiming that
the violation is self-created.
Right, but they're saying that the creation of grade level was presumably approved by the village. Yes, but not required. Approved, but the village didn't say you must grade it this particular way.
It is self-created. He created the situation.
He graded it that way. The grading was approved, and then he realized it was a safety issue. So I disagree with that. What do you guys think?
No, it is self-created.
Gary, what about you?
Yeah, I agree.
Joe?
I say it's self-created as
Okay,
well.
we all agree it's self-created. Do we now make a determination on whether we're going to grant the variance?
Free to do that, using the balancing test.
All right, well, we have the
I
last,
make a motion that we grant him the variance for that 6-foot fence between the front of and the rear yard.
The portion that's in currently.
The portion
right,
that's in
the
violation.
6-foot part.
I'll second that.
How do we vote on that? Joe?
I vote aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so this is a draft decision. Will be a draft decision. We'll vote on it next month.
Okay.
And he's going to remove some of the 50%.
Well, we didn't get to that yet.
That's next, right.
So, as you were going through the considerations, I came up with, in looking at our application, as you know, the 50% violation was not included in the initial
Correct.
notice of violation. However, we stated it in that February 7th application, saying that although not stated in the NOV, we understand from the Village of Woodbury CEO that it is also alleged that an existing fence violates Village Code 146.7. To the extent that the village deems the existing fence in violation of the code, we respectfully request that the CEO provide clarification and reissue the NOV. Is it our understanding, however, that the fence is located on the side yard of the property and does not unduly cut off light or air, causing a nuisance, a fire hazard, or a dangerous condition. Further, the side yard fence is not in the front or along any public right-of-way, thus the requirement that it be less than 50% solid does not apply. So what we've done here is we request the board make a determination that that section of the code does not apply.
An interpretation.
Yes, an interpretation. To the extent the board believes it does apply and disagrees with that interpretation request, we would then come back and seek an area variance. The other thing I would add is you've stated that these green inserts that we have pictures of in the application are unlawful. I would suggest they are not unlawful if they provide less than 50%. These green inserts are designed to look like more than 50%, but when you actually zoom in, they are not 50%. So what I would suggest is the board make an interpretation of that issue as we've requested. To the extent you make a negative interpretation, not in the applicant's favor, then we would resubmit for an area variance, which is a common practice when there's an interpretation of an NOV followed up by an area variance request.
Counselor, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Just let me interrupt here for a moment. The February 7th letter doesn't address the issue, and it sets forth your arguments that the fence is not in violation of 146-7 for various stated reasons. Though it was not appealed initially in your February 7th letter, you do appeal that item by virtue of the code enforcement officer's letter dated February 25th, ostensibly issued to you by him, in which it's asserted that the fence violates that code section. In your letter dated March 7, you assert that it is appealing that determination. To the extent the letter from the code enforcement officer is deemed to be a determination, my opinion is that the board has jurisdiction to hear this portion of your appeal this evening. I think you've said it before them. You have a code enforcement officer letter dated February 25th setting forth this position that you're in violation, and you've asserted your appeal of it. So I think the matter is ripe for a review by the board this evening.
I agree. The only thing I would suggest is we reserve our right, pending what I expect to be a negative vote from the board, to submit for an area variance from that.
For a solid fence?
For a solid fence, correct. Realizing that if you make an interpretation that the NOV violation sticks, we then have the ability to submit for an area variance.
Well, you know what, I'm looking at this picture right here. It looks solid.
It looks solid from the road.
So, I mean, now you know where I stand. It's solid.
The code is uniformly less than 50% solid.
And we submit that those inserts are uniformly less than 50% solid, because what you're seeing is almost like an illusion where the tassels that are coming off those green inserts.
It's an illusion that makes the fence look solid.
And that's what's before the board this evening.
Well, then take every other one out and you'll be fine.
He's done that on the front,
He's done that?
yes.
But it's still.
On the
you
4-foot
can't
fence that
even
goes
tell.
from the front
Yeah,
corner of the house
you did,
down
but
at least
it's
part
still-
of the way.
You can't see through it, you know.
If I may, there are other types of inserts. There are vinyl inserts of varying sizes.
Right, but if he just pulled out, if he's already pulled out every other one, and now he pulls out the one in the middle, he'll have one and then two empty spaces, 2 empty spaces.
I would like to
You
get an
know.
interpretation from Gary as to whether or not that is actually what is supposed to be there. And the only reason I ask that is, it
No, they're
seemed to
made
be
for
a
that. They're made
uniform
for-
thing with a molded plastic fence, a less than 50% fence. Because like I said, I went and actually looked at actual fencing to get a handle on it for this, to make sure I understood exactly what we were trying to create. So if Gary was to say that if he just took the center one out and that would leave enough space that the average is less than 50%.
Yes, I discussed that with him.
But what I would say is, and this is to not reinvent the wheel, the building inspector, in his letter, has already made that determination. He made a determination that we are not compliant with the code.